NASA has cut 10% of its workforce. We're back at the moon. Doge you touch our space program. All coming up on the next Orbital Edge. Hello and welcome to Orbital Edge Season 2. Well, we've got some problems, but before we get to those, we're going to get into a little space news. Firefly's blue ghost, and we're going to watch this footage right here showing the Firefly's moon arrival and what it has captured with its onboard cameras. Pretty amazing footage. You're seeing some decent detail in the craters. You can see real good clarity in the quality of the cameras that they are using here. So congratulations on Firefly Blue Ghost for getting this far. Firefly is known as the company that is actually building a rocket. And congratulations to Firefly Aerospace for this awesome adventure. They're getting really close, and we're definitely hoping for a landing here. Right now, it did fly 74 miles above the surface of the moon during that maneuver. That was done on February 18th. Here's the thing about Firefly Aerospace. They were actually known to they're known for building a rocket. There's like the second private space company other than SpaceX to build their own rocket, just like Rocket Labs. And the rocket that had launched in 2021 at Vandenberg Aerospace was called Firefly Alpha. So who is Firefly Aerospace? Well, they're a private space company that's basically competing with Rocket Labs on small satellite launchers. And they've launched in 2021 at Vandenberg. And this surprised the heck out of me that they actually had a lander go out, because I only really knew Firefly Aerospace as a rocket builder. They kind of caught me off guard here, but I love it when space companies kind of do that. I just kind of like to know what people are doing, by surprise, and then boom, whoa, you're actually doing that? But with that aside, that's kind of maybe the highlight of space news, maybe all of 2025 except for the New Glenn launch. And we had covered that on our space pod. You can watch that right up here. So it's with regret we do have to start the year off with a not so great topic. The space community has definitely been sounding the alarm on what's going on. Well, the U.S. space program may no longer be here by 2026. We wish we had better news, but with the trajectory that 2025 is going, we need to talk about this on the show. There are rumors among the space community that have been sounding the alarm on this. This is going to involve Elon Musk and his recent role in our government, which is crazy in itself, but that is a show for another channel and someone who is a bit more versed in politics than I am. So the first big thing is definitely a conflict of interest. I warned on the show last year about this, and yep, so check the first box on that of me predicting of what was going to happen if we let Elon Musk unchecked in the U.S. government. So beyond the conflict of interest, we've got things possibly getting contracts for SpaceX while looking into the same government agencies that he has contracts with. Gee, what could go wrong here? Also, I can't confirm this, but there's talks of Elon Musk canceling Artemis. Also, we need to go over the fact that it's been in the news and confirmed that 10% of NASA's workforce has been cut by what's probably another move by the Doge agency, which, by the way, is not a real government agency, has not been properly approved for by Congress. Also, the security clearances are not there to be doing what they are doing. So, wow. And then for all the Pentagon and all the Department of Defense contracts that he has, and then he's policing himself on that. It's just, there's so many wrongs here for someone who is launching defense satellites and then saying, hey, I'm going to go play with the money about it. I'm not going to let any sort of congressional approval determine how much money I should get to launch Department of Defense payloads. I'm going to decide, in my own opinion, what is government waste and where the money should be redirected to. Keep in mind, any money he does find in waste, fraud, or whatever, I can guarantee you that that money is not going to go back to the taxpayer. And I will be guaranteeing you that that money is going to go right into SpaceX. So I can't wrap my head around this, and it's crazy. And then what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Do you think there's any sort of benefit at all of what he's doing? You know, I would love to have a conversation further about this. If anybody's got any thoughtful and educated insight into, you know, what do you think of, you know, any positive here that would still foster competition and still have NASA. I do want to hear that. So then we move on to the rumors of Artemis getting canceled. Then Elon Musk would be the one pointing out waste and fraud. Well, here's where we're going to have a big problem. First of all, without the space program, we are basically handing everything over to China. China's going to get to the moon before us. They're going to get to Mars before us. Tons and tons and tons of space experts, not just me, have always said that in order to get to humanity to Mars, it's going to be a universal endeavor. It's going to involve both public and private means. Private space is not going to get us to Mars on its own because there's just too much research and development and science that NASA still has to get. And it takes big money to actually do that science, to actually back these manned missions to Mars. Private means can't get there because there's a profitability requirement. And that gets in the way, that actually gets in the way of the funding, but it also conflicts with stakeholders. Stakeholders who give funding to private space companies, they don't want anything to do with the scientific portion of it. So that it falls right on its face right away. Furthermore, on the whole possibly canceling Artemis, speaking of waste and fraud, that is the biggest waste and fraud to actually cancel Artemis, because Artemis is the thing that's working. We've already had a successful Artemis 1 flight a few years ago. Doesn't matter about the delays, and it doesn't matter how much it costs. What matters is the results. And the results are, it flew, it worked. And there's no arguing that. If you were to cut the program after a program works, that's called wasting your money. And with Elon here, and because he's doing this, it's going to be said on the show, because he's the one in charge here of looking into all of our government spending. So let's be real clear here. Artemis isn't being replaced by anything. SpaceX, Starship, that's not a 100% replacement of what we have built. I'm warning you guys. If we don't have NASA, we don't have a space program. We also need to understand the difference between a space program and a space company. A space program is able to do everything it needs to do to get humanity off Earth. A space company is a contractor through which you do that with. A space company will never, ever be a space program. There is no money or stakeholder approval to do such a thing. I kind of want to cut myself off real quick about why the first show of the season started as late as it did. Well, of course, with 2025 basically everything going on is distracting everything. But at the same time, what really has been going on in space in 2025? it's been crickets. Explains why we didn't have a launch segment in the show. We haven't had any recent high-profile or unique launches. So what we are still going to do, though, the top 10 2025 things in space to look forward to in 2025 after things kind of start clearing up a little bit. Once things settle down, we can start focusing more on the micro aspects of spaceflight for the year. Right now, we're addressing the alarms and the awareness that we need to get out there for you spaceflight fans so that you guys can still stay excited about space. Because believe me, I'm more excited than ever, and things like this definitely rile me up. And when I heard the rumors, I immediately said, I don't care what I'm doing. We're going to get a show out there for you. And that's final. So moving on here, this show is about getting new space fans excited about space, but we cannot lie to you. We have to address the problems of spaceflight if that's what needs to be done. We're not going to hold anything back. We're not going to pretend things are peachy-dory in spaceflight. Like, oh, everything's okay. Everything's just... You cannot be ignorant. You cannot be an ignorant person like that. You've got to know what's going on. You got to kind of build a field around you, kind of like layers. You need to dig into things. Don't just let space news get to you. Sometimes you've got to search for it. And then you may start searching for controversial things, and you might start finding more truthful things for which you thought was the truth and now is a lie. I can even, quick example, a lot of Elon Musk fans right now are no longer Elon Musk fans as of 2025 after what he's been doing. So, if you want to not really live in a bubble, you got to kind of pop that bubble, look a little bit outside your comfort zone and find out what's out there, because that's what exploration is all about. Also, we just don't kill the messenger. So if I find something out and it's important, I'm going to deliver that communication to you. And whether it's good news or bad, well, it is what it is. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, was I right about Elon Musk in last year's episode where I warned that if Elon Musk has a position of power, that he could be a conflict of interest and cause all sorts of other problems for the space industry? Stay tuned for the answer. We'll be right back. Elon Musk definitely is not that high up in the government. He has no political experience whatsoever. So with that said, we can still see an issue here because he takes in a lot of federal funding for SpaceX. If he is in the position of saving taxpayer money, that's going to be a big issue in him receiving federal money. Because what is to stop him from shifting taxpayer money into SpaceX and get more money, taking away from other programs that the United States does need, whether it's for the Department of Defense, border protections, the FBI, CIA, all these agencies and any discretionary spending agencies that, of course, help everyday Americans. If he was to be caught funneling money from those programs and then sending them to SpaceX, he'd be absolutely federally liable. And we could probably, like the stock market where, you know, there's this thing called inside trading. We could just probably call this inside fiduciary transfer. Welcome back. We'd like to thank all the subscribers and commenters that have helped make the show engaging. Like I said, when we come back, we were going to just outright say where we write about Elon Musk. And like I said earlier, we checked off the first box about his conflict of interest and possibly taking all the money that Doge is saving and then moving it into Elon Musk's contracts, where not only he's going to get a monopoly on spaceflight, he's also going to do what's called state capture. If you don't know what state capture it is a highly political term, and the best way I can explain it to you is if somebody is in a position of power where there's a conflict of interest, where they have everything to benefit but nothing to lose. And what it does is it undermines the municipality's laws and then gets that person into power. And what it is it changes the power dynamics in their direction, and then it kills competition. It's not good for consumers when things like that happen. All it does is raises prices for consumers, lowers quality of products and services. And then in Elon Musk's case, doing a state capture of a government space program would just involve only him launching and no one else. He's the only one that's going to get contracts for Department of Defense launches. He would still do Starlink launches. Exploration, here's the kicker. He's not going to be about exploration. He's not going to do a Mars lander that's going to collect science. He's not going to do moon landers that collect science. He's not going to do that. If Starship's very slow R&D is any indicator of his direction in spaceflight, I think we kind of know, after Flight 7 of Starship, we're not really getting anywhere. Starship should be human rated at this point. I mean, test flights of that, I could understand, but we are in 2025. He's a good 2 years behind schedule, and he has a contract with NASA, so that kind of makes it weird and a problem. But for the part that we're fearing the most is the elimination of NASA. And does that eliminate the show? No, it does not. We're going to report on Space News where it is. So if Space News is going to be in Roscosmos, JAXA, European Space Agency, CNSA from China, if they're the ones launching the rockets and they're the ones doing the missions, guess who's getting the coverage? They are. If SpaceX wants to, if Elon Musk wants to turn I want to be careful of how I'm saying SpaceX here. I should be saying Elon Musk only because this is just his own ideas. Gwen Shotwell, the president of SpaceX, probably doesn't like this direction either. So just be careful when I say SpaceX. I'm pretty much just talking about Elon Musk today. So with Musk getting rid of our space program, first of all, I've said it's not going to work because you were a space company. You were not going to be a space program. With hardly anything to launch, you're just going to launch Starlink. Is that all you're going to do? You're going to compete with Amazon's Kuiper from Blue Origin. If you don't know what Kuiper is, that's the satellite constellation Blue Origin wants to launch on their New Glenn rocket. We've discussed all that stuff previously last year on season 1 on the show. If you want to learn a little bit more how I feel about Starlink and those types of internet satellites, go ahead and watch those. But other than that, there is just no way that something like this is going to work. Elon Musk has no clue of how to run a space program. And don't get me started on Jared Isaacman being appointed the administrator of NASA. Just compounding the conflicts of interest. But SpaceX. The thing is, you can't think like a 10-year-old about this. Jared Isaacman was an astronaut on a SpaceX mission. That doesn't make him qualified to be administrator of NASA. Because again, NASA's a space program. SpaceX is a space company. You got to know the difference. So we can all be honest. Any true spaceflight fan wants all rockets at all costs with all missions. That's exploration, that's logistics, resupply, crew missions. Spaceflight fans want it all. If Elon Musk decides, hey, I'm just going to do everything myself, that's a disservice to the American taxpayer, first of all, because the non-spaceflight fan taxpayers, they really want their dollar going to exploration. This is where SpaceX, ironically, is kind of been going away from. And, you know, my tax dollars, I want them to go to exploration and a permanent presence on the moon and Mars. I'm a little bit different because, of course, someone like me who likes to geek out and just love things, all spaceflight, I'd hate to see something so boring and uninspiring with just Falcon 9s launching Starlink and then maybe a Falcon Heavy twice a year doing God knows what. And then Starship also only doing Starlink because you're not making any headway on any crew rating. Because I honestly think, yeah, in one way I agree, you probably should get more funding for the human landing system, which of course is what Starship in Texas is trying to test, right? I would agree with that. But you need to chew bubblegum and walk at the same time. You need everything. You need all of it. You need all the rockets. You need all the missions. That's what spaceflight is all about. I was going to end the show right there, but I'm all fired up, and I hope you are too, because that's what we do at Orbital Edge News, get you excited about space, yearning for more. It's just, the passion in me have just exploded this year. It's like, I didn't even write a script for this show because of how passionate I am about what's going on. But you want to know what the most incredible thing is? I like the idea of cutting government waste, overspending, and things like that. I am all for getting the bloated stuff of Artemis down. Of course, that doesn't mean you get rid of Artemis. You cut the waste. I agree with that happening, but not Elon Musk doing it. He is not to be trusted. A qualified person, an actual auditor, to go into NASA and start cutting waste, and yet still have the Artemis program, and still have SpaceX contracted to do the human landing system for Moon, which I believe is Artemis 3, in which that is going to happen. And one more thing, we're very objective on this show. So that's why I can say we need to cut waste. We need to lower cost. We need to open up access to space for everyone else. That's what the private industry is doing. But the government, it costs more because they want to do it right the first time. Private companies just test. They're iterative. That's because of the shareholders. I'm cool with that too. You got to do both though. Because if you only do one without the other, you cut off one wing of that bird, it's not going to fly anymore. And just like our space program in America will not fly under a SpaceX monopoly, under Elon Musk. And with that, that does it for the show, the first show of 2025. I hope you stuck with me this long. Next, as early as 2 weeks, but maybe in a month, we're going to get into some cool stuff. I got so many awesome topics to get done. But with that said, I am Chad, your host, and I will see you next time.